Good morning, everybody. We are here again to tell you more about the family planning and other reproductive health services, how to provide nursing care during this COVID-19. Yesterday we had about maternal health care, about antenatal, postnatal, breastfeeding, and all. So now we are going through a family planning and other reproductive health services. Dr. Vimla Upadhyay, who had taken also the yesterday session, which was very interesting. Now she'll be taking on this today's session, and she's again I'll give her introduction. She is a consultant with UNFPA in the reproductive health. Over to Dr. Vimla.
Good morning, all of you. And today again we are meeting on a session which is related with reproductive health. And first topic will be family planning. And I hope during this COVID times, all of you are safe and providing the services safely. Bharti, can we have the presentation? So,
Yes.
like we all know that family planning is also an important component of essential services. And what are our roles and responsibilities, and how we are going to deliver the family planning services during this COVID outbreak? This is the main purpose of this presentation. And first of all, we'll try to understand why contraception is important during this pandemic. We all know that not much information on COVID-19 affecting the course of pregnancy and the organogenesis in the fetus is currently available. Bharti, you have moved the slide. Yes. Um, and there is a limited data which is available, and we know that it's only been 3 months since the pandemic, and we don't know what is the course of this disease, how this disease is going to affect the pregnancy. So it becomes very important to understand contraception, uh, especially because of the lockdown and the accessibility issues. Patients have barriers to access to information and services during the outbreak, and this becomes our responsibility. And also, like it as I told, it's a part of essential services, that we ensure that people have access to the contraceptive services, which will help to reduce the pressure on the health system and to manage consequences of an unintended pregnancy, because we don't know like how this pandemic is going to pan out, how the pregnancies in future will be affected. So better to have a preventive measure, and that will reduce the pressure on the health system. So next slide, please. So what contraceptive choices do women have at this time? So it is advised to use methods that have a limited medical restrictions, like pills, condoms, and fertility awareness based methods. There is we know that low risk women who are already taking oral contraceptive pills, they can continue doing so because they don't need any additional screening at this time. Who the women who are required, who are COVID positive, and they want IUCD or sterilization, should delay and approach the facility after the period of isolation. Same way, to reduce the burden on the health system, if the woman wants IUCD, or if there are problems related to IUCD, and if she is having wanting to have sterilization, or her husband is wanting to have sterilization, they should delay till the lockdown period is over, so that the health system, which is right now burdened with managing the COVID related issues, they are not unnecessarily like have issues of managing these things. And but yes, if there is a problem related with IUCD, there are adverse events which the woman is like not able to manage, then it is her right to go and have services from a appropriate facility. Emergency contraceptive pills, we know that they are very effective in preventing 95% of the pregnancies when taken within 3 days of unprotected sexual intercourse. So they can be given by anyone, and without any screening, or if she even has some pre-existing conditions like the hormonal contraceptives where they are contraindicated. So those conditions also she can be given emergency contraceptive pill. So, and it is very effective. So this is what becomes a very good option at this time of the pandemic. Next. So as a family planning service provider, what is my duty? We should ensure that all women, irrespective of their COVID status, should receive counseling on all contraceptive methods. They should be given choices of all the methods. And when we are delivering the services, we should take care of proper hand hygiene and respiratory hygiene. Provide emergency contraceptive pills as soon as possible after unprotected intercourse. We know that it is effective as early as it is taken, like it can prevent 95% of the pregnancies. But if the duration is prolonged and if it becomes like more than 3 days, actually it is within 72 hours, but if it is more than 3 days, then its efficacy is not that much. But if EC is given still and the woman and there is a failure, the woman can continue with the pregnancy. When you are giving emergency contraceptive pill, offer a regular supply of a contraceptive of choice. Do not refer the woman for sterilization at this time, and focus should be on a reversible method, irrespective of the number of children. Like many of times, providers tend to offer sterilization to women who have completed their families. So at this time, because the woman has a restriction on going to the facility for sterilization services, so there should be more focus on reversible method. At the same time, we should keep in mind that because of the lockdown, many migrant men and families have returned to the villages, and there is a surge in the need of contraception. And we have to ensure that we enable these people to have access to contraception, and it is better if they receive the services at their homes, because that reduces the travel, and people do not have to go unnecessarily to shops or health centers and expose themselves to the risk of getting an infection. So this is what we should be cognizant of this problem, and we should also have a always open mind to address these issues when the woman or her husband are in need of contraception. Next. So what should be done if the woman is a confirmed or a suspected case of COVID-19? So if she is currently using a method, she should be encouraged to continue the same and delay the visit to the facility unless it is an emergency. At the same time, if she is having some problem, advise her to use teleconsultation using helplines or telemedicine facilities. Our objective is, if she is stable and has a minor symptoms or is asymptomatic, her visit to a facility should be reduced as much as possible, so that she does not become a risk for other people. And at the same time, she is also able to confine herself within her conditions. Next. What about postpartum family planning and post-abortion family planning? So because these are also essential services, women will be going to the facilities for delivery, and she will be availing abortion services. So, and that is also an opportunity to provide family planning method at the same time. So postpartum and post-abortion family planning services should be offered to all women, irrespective of their COVID status. However, due diligence to provide standard care of management of COVID-19 positive should be followed. She should be attended at a isolation center isolated room or a facility which is designated to manage such case, but the services should be available to her. Next. Bharti, next slide, please. So there are certain queries around these contraceptive methods. In the basket of choice, we know that we have Antara program, and we have oral contraceptive pills, which includes a combined oral contraceptive pills and a non-hormonal contraceptive pill, which is Chaya, and emergency contraceptive pills, IUCDs. These are the options available. So as a provider, we have many queries around them. I would like to take you through some of the queries which you may encounter or which you may have yourself. So what if the woman is not able to visit sub center? Because the injectable, right now the Government of India guideline says that the injectables can be provided at the sub center level, and the woman should defer availability of services from PHCs or CHCs for IUCD. So, and if she is already an Antra user and she is not able to go to a sub center, or if there is no ANM available at the time she visited, so what should do the woman? Does the woman need to reschedule her visit? The answer is that you have to, the woman should be informed that there is a flexibility in use of NPA. Um, Even if she has delayed, the next dose is delayed by 28 days, or if she has not been able to come within for 28 days, then the next dose can be given when if she visits within 28 days. However, if she is not able to visit within 28 days and goes beyond that, then there is other there are certain things which need to be, we will discuss that. But because this is the lockdown period and women may have limited movement issues, so they may not be able to get any conveyance or vehicle, or she may find that the sub center is locked. So we can tell her that she can wait 4 weeks till the lockdown is over. Next query you may encounter is, what if the user is late for the next dose? The same thing, like it can be given within 28 days of the last dose. However, if she is delayed beyond 28 days, that is, she is more than 4 weeks late, we have to rule out pregnancy, however, and give her Antra if she is not pregnant. And because now the protection has gone, so for the first 7 days, she should be given a backup method. If the woman is late for re-injection, or the next injection, injection of NPA should be planned, because the next dose becomes effective from the date which she is receiving. So it would be 3 months later from the current date which she receives the injection. Next. If the woman is switching from Antra because she is not able to go to a facility and she does not want to continue Antra injection and she wants to switch to oral contraceptive pill, so what should be advised to the woman? The woman can switch to Antra anytime if she wants. If she is within the scheduled date or the due date of the injection, she can start the other method without any backup. However, if she is beyond 4 weeks and pregnancy is ruled out, she may need a backup method for 7 days. Next query around Antra could be, how long does it take to become pregnant after discontinuing the Antra injection? Like many times, the women they want to conceive after they are in the lockdown period. They were wanting to stop the injection, and they are trying to conceive again. So what we tell them? The woman can discontinue Antra, but the average period of return of fertility is 4 to 6 months. She takes a longer time, 4 to 6 months longer than other methods. So it may take up to sometimes 1 year of stopping the method to become pregnant again. The length of the time is irrespective of the duration of how much time she is on Antra. So it does not make any difference whether she has taken 3 doses, or she has taken 2 doses, or she has taken Antra for a year. The return of fertility is delayed, and it may at times maybe from 9 months to a year to return to conceive again. So you have to tell the woman that she has to have some patience when she is on Antra and wants to be pregnant again. Next. So can an ANM or a staff nurse give Antra to a woman who is a new user? So at this time, because there are restrictions in the movement and the facilities are closed, as per the GOI guideline, only Antra, a new user can get an Antra under a supervision of a trained MBBS doctor. So if there is a way that the MBBS doctor can supervise an ANM, yes, she can start Antra during this time also to a new user. But however, you have to be very cautious to screen the woman properly, and always ensure that a supervision is available for this injection. If the scheduled follow-up visit for getting the next dose of MVA injection is in the lockdown period, what should be done? So again, the women can visit the nearest sub-center and get a dose from an ANM. Next. So there are certain queries around the OCPs, like how can a woman get a supply of oral contraceptive pill during lockdown period? Like we have ASHAs, and it's an essential services. So ASHAs and ANMs are given enough stock, or the pills are available at the nearest chemist. So supplies are available. Currently, the government of India has enough supplies for the contraceptive methods. And if the ASHA or ANM has enough stock, so she can supply for a period of 3 months. The woman can be given stock for 3 months, and so that she does not have to repeatedly come, or the ANM or ASHA does not have to repeatedly. If ASHA is visiting the woman, she need not to go for repeated visits to give her the contraceptive, and this helps the women also, and is helpful for the person who is giving the dose. If the woman is OCP user and she has missed a pill, what is to be done? So if the woman has missed one pill, we all know that the next dose should be taken as soon as she remembers. If she has missed 2 pills, then she should take 2 pills, one each of the next 2 days. Then she should continue 1 pill every day. If she has missed 3 or more pills, then she should stop further pills and use condom for next 7 days. And she should start a new packet of pill after the next cycle. So these are the some of the queries which may come to you on oral contraceptive pills. And if the woman already has IUCD, there are especially if she is new user, she may be facing some adverse events, and she may want to remove IUCD. So what should be the woman advised on this, and what are the if she wants is a new user and wants to get IUCD inserted during this lockdown and travel restriction period, what we should be advising her? If she wants a new insertion, then it is advised that women should avoid IUCD during the lockdown period and to reduce the contact with the health center. But if she wants to get it removed, can she visit the health facility? And IUCD, if she has no major problems and they can be managed at home, or she can be telephonically advised, it's better that she defers the visit to the health center. But if the adverse events or the condition is such that she cannot wait at home, then surely she should be advised to come to the hospital, and it can be removed. But at this time, it's better that the visit is deferred due to the travel restrictions. If the IUCD is it's because of the IUCD's removal was due because of the expiry of the IUCD, it has completed the period of efficacy. Like for 375, it is 5 years, and for 380A, it is 10 years. And the removal is due because of the period of effectiveness is over. So remember, the IUCD can continue for at least 1 to 2 years longer after the recommended period of the efficacy. So we can advise her to not to visit and defer the removal for a few months. And if required, additional some backup method like a condom, or she can even start OCP if required, because the efficacy is down and we don't know whether it will be like 100%. Naturally, the failure rates increase. So in that case, we should give her something to cover that period. Next. So if a woman wishes to have her IUCD removed because of the health issues such as bleeding or pain, so if she has a problem, she can go to a nearby sub-center or a PHC and get it removed. If the woman wants to switch from IUCD to some other method, what are the options available? she should be advised to use condom or OCP till she is able to visit a health center for removal. Under the lockdown situation, it is better to defer the removal of IUCD, and a visit to a facility is not advisable at this time. Next. So what are we will talk a little bit about what could be what are the queries around the emergency contraceptive pill. Women did not have women does not have supply of condom and has an unprotected sexual intercourse a night before. So what should she do? She can take ECP for such situation. ASHA should supply her with sufficient number of condoms and ECP if she has availability of enough stock. Next query could be, women ask for supply of emergency contraceptive pill in advance. What should ASHA or ANM do? Answer is, provide her with sufficient supplies of ECPs to cover needs of emergency contraception, since it is better to prevent a pregnancy through emergency contraception rather than women having an unwanted pregnancy. Remember, due to pressure on the health facilities, travel restrictions and loss of wages, it may be more difficult for a woman to seek abortion or to go and give birth to a baby during the epidemic period. However, tell her to opt for a regular method after she is able to visit a health facility. Next, please. If the woman uses ECP more than once, is it dangerous? Because this is a time when they may not have a regular supply of contraceptive, and they may have an option of using ECP, or they may just not know that there are other contraceptives available. So in that condition, if she uses repeated ECP, is it dangerous? ECP is not dangerous for the health of the woman. There is no evidence that if woman uses ECPs multiple times, it can cause any problem, because ECP treatment is very brief and the dose of hormone is very small. So she can use ECP as in this condition at least. Otherwise, it's not advised. She should be using a regular contraceptive, but because of the COVID situation at this time, we should allow the women to do that. Why is there a greater demand for emergency contraceptive pill during COVID situation? During epidemic, increased demand is expected because of several reasons. Many migrant men have come home, and couple may not have been using a contraceptive earlier, so ECP becomes handy. Problems in travel and buying emergency other contraceptives is a problem. So if they have emergency contraceptive pills available, they can use it. Greater risk of domestic violence and sexual coercion and unprotected sexual intercourse are there at this time. So they should be they should have an option of emergency contraceptive pills available with them. Irregular supply of regular contraceptive, like women may not get her scheduled DMPA, or the supplies of OCP and condom may run out, and hence health staff should be more considerate about these issues and should not restrict use of emergency contraceptive pills. Next. So what are the more important points to remember during this time when we have travel restrictions and lockdown situation? Sexual and reproductive health services are being severely impacted by the pandemic, and they must be prioritized by the health service providers, especially the providers who are providing family planning services. They should be mindful of the situation of the woman and the conditions at the health facilities. So help them to avail the family planning services. Provision of contraceptives, information, counseling, and services, including emergency contraception, is life-saving and should be continued during COVID-19 pandemic as a response to the pandemic. In order to reduce workload on the health facilities and to reduce the risk of crowding in the hospitals, it is not advisable at this time to refer for sterilization, and focus on reversible methods, irrespective of the number of the children the woman or the couple have. So that should be the underlying condition for providing family planning services. So with this, I stop. Bharti?
You have to stop sharing your
Yeah.
presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Vimla. Uh,
So will we take question answers later on?
later on, after both the sessions, ma'am.
Okay.
We have Dr. Kirti Iyengar from UNFPA, who is a National Health Officer for UNFPA for the reproductive health and HIV. So, Madam will be taking on the abortion access and safe practices. Over to Dr. Kirti.
Yeah, thank you, Bharti. Good morning, everyone. We had a session yesterday about pregnancy, delivery, and postnatal care, and today we are discussing the family planning and abortion services. You must be wondering as to why at this time of COVID we are discussing a sort of slightly, issue which is not often discussed, which is the issue of abortion. So we just have to see that whether COVID influenced the need for reproductive health care. Now, this is a time of the crisis, which means that women are likely to have a greater need of reproductive health care because sometimes they are not able to take decisions about preventing the pregnancies. Of course, we have to provide them contraceptives, but sometimes they may not be in a position to take a decision. And sometimes whether or not to continue the pregnancy, it will also depend on whether their economic situation has drawn down. Maybe their husbands have lost job, maybe they have lost their own daily wages. And in such a situation, when they are also facing an increased risk of domestic violence, which has been shown everywhere in the world, that after this COVID-related lockdown situations, cases of domestic violence has drawn up. Whether it is due to the frustrations among the husbands or whether it is whatever reasons, it has drawn up. So therefore, the woman may not have much control over their fertility and the use of family planning method. So does the question arises whether the COVID-19 restrict the access to contraception and safe abortion services? Yes, in a way, yes. Even for family planning services, it's not easy to provide the women easily because, as we know, first of all, there are travel restrictions and there are quarantines. And even after the lockdown will be lifted, it's not that everywhere the travel will become normal. It will remain restricted. It will grow up only in phases. When they reach a facility, there are fewer doctors and nurses available. And most importantly, people's ability to pay for services is not affected. And therefore, suppose somebody was earlier making the money available and paying for a, say, abortion service in a private setup, now they can't pay because they don't have that much money. And who's affected most out of all this latter of services? The poorest and the most marginalized women. Marginalized means those who are poor, live in remote areas, and have a lower socio-economic status. So I will be talking very briefly on two issues. One is minimizing COVID exposure for women and staff. If a woman needs an abortion service, but at the same time, we all know that it is not advisable that women repeatedly go to the hospitals. They spend too much of time in the hospitals. We know all that. And at the same time, if a woman who has a suspected COVID, and if she says that she needs an abortion service, then what do we do? What is to be done? Now, we all know very well that in India, as per the MTP Act, the abortion services can be provided only by doctors in only certified facilities and only by MTP trained doctors. So whatever we are taught in, it is in that context. The nurses have a very important role to support and to provide counsel in all the services. So for women and staff, we have to minimize the COVID exposure. So first of all, one question arises whether it is necessary to provide the safe abortion services during this COVID outbreak. Why not just tell the women to continue the pregnancy? The point is that the provision of the safe abortion is an extremely time-sensitive and essential health service. WHO, UNFPA, and various agencies, and even the government of India has recognized that safe abortion is an essential health service. It is crucial. What is meant by time-sensitive? You all know that suppose somebody Trump's had 1.5 months of pregnancy, and we say, okay, wait for 2 months. Maybe she will be then 3.5 months pregnant, and then second trimester abortion services become more difficult to provide. So time sensitive means that the sooner you provide, the better it is. We can't delay it. And therefore, it has to be maintained even when other non-urgent services are suspended. We all know that they have, like people have been told in general to avoid the unnecessary visits to the hospitals. But at the same time, abortion is a service which is not although it is an elective service, but still it is time sensitive and an essential service. So the question arises, what will happen if there is a delay in providing the abortion service? So suppose somebody goes to a health facility and they find that the abortion cannot be provided and they are told to come after a month. What is going to happen? As we discussed, the gestational age will increase. From 2 months pregnant, she becomes 3 months pregnant. And then 3 months means she's a second trimester phase and it's even more difficult. Then procedure may not be provided medically. As we will just discuss very shortly, that the medical abortion can be provided when it is an early pregnancy, up to 9 weeks of pregnancy, which means about 2.25 months. And after that, surgical to be provided. So if we delay providing the abortion service, then medical abortion may not be possible. And then further strain on the hard-pressed surgical services. In any case, there is an advice not to do any unnecessary surgery at this time. So if the woman is provided the service early, she might be able to get a medical abortion rather than a surgical abortion. And when the woman spends more time in the hospital because she has become a second trimester phase, even the health workers, the nurses, the doctors, the cleaner staff, they all are at a greater risk. As you all must be reading in the newspapers that, you know, the number of staff who's getting infected is also going up in certain cities. And then when we don't provide abortion services, what happens? They go to various kinds of illegal abortion providers. And this is a newspaper cutting, you know, those of you who can understand Hindi can see that this is a case where some quack has provided abortion service and the woman became very, very serious because this person pulled out the woman's intestines. So we don't want, isn't it better that the safe abortion services are provided to the woman? So during the COVID outbreak, what is a better method to provide? Just for your knowledge, you must be aware that there are two methods of abortion. One is a medical abortion, where some drugs are given to terminate a pregnancy. And the other method is the surgical abortion, where the products of conception are removed using either a cannula with a vacuum, which is a manual vacuum aspiration, or an electrical vacuum aspiration. And in common language, some people call it DNC also, but DNC is an outdated method and is not recommended at all. So the point is that suppose there is a nurse, like because you are all in the nursing colleges, either you are a nursing student or a nursing faculty or the in-service nurses. So if they meet a woman who has an unwanted pregnancy and the woman says, I want an abortion, what can a nurse do? The nurse's role is to counsel and refer them to the facilities where safe abortion services by an MTP trained doctor are available. That is the most important role. We'll also discuss some other roles which a nurse can provide. But the most important is to refer them to the correct place and to provide them the correct information. And even there, the important point is that we should preferably refer her to a facility which is closer to her home, rather than sending her to the district headquarters. Suppose it's a rural area, then the woman should be referred to a PHC or a CHC or a private hospital which is closer to her house. And also refer her to a place where medical abortion service is available. Medical abortion is a much easier and it has less contact between the doctor and the patient, doctor or nurse and the patient. And therefore, better to refer her to a place where the doctor is willing to provide the medical abortion services. In some places, the doctors, for whatever reasons, may not be willing to provide medical abortion. However, we have to also remember that we should refer her to the facility that will provide MTP as per the legal guidelines as per the MTP Act. All the abortion services in India are governed by the MTP Act, and we have to refer her to a place which provides safe abortion services in a legal way. So, I was just now telling you that surgical abortion and medical abortion are different. Now, surgical abortion requires the use of certain instruments, and therefore it generally needs a slightly larger level of facility because the doctor has to be trained in doing the uterine evacuation, or you can say DNC or manual vacuum aspiration. So while the medical abortion requires less skills and it can be provided by a doctor in a slightly peripheral facility also, like a CHC or a PHC also. So this is the medical abortion pill. It's a packet of 5 pills. There are 2 types of pills which are there in it. And it can be provided, this picture is of a PHC or a CHC. So it does not require very high level of facility. So it can be provided in a CHC, PHC or a small private hospital also, if a MTP trained doctor is available. And the other point is that one is that the medical abortion is therefore a more preferable method, although we are not saying that the surgical cannot be provided at all, but the medical is a more preferred method. But even in medical abortion, you must be aware that sometimes the women are asked to come many times. So when the women are asked to come many times, some providers means some doctors, they ask the women to come 3 to 4 times to receive a medical abortion service. And when women have to repeatedly travel in buses, because everybody does not have their own personal car or a motorbike, and most of our population, 70% population, lives in rural areas, and when they have to travel in buses, there is travel restriction, and there are the social distancing cannot be followed, and therefore we have to consider whether this traditional method of multiple visits can be relaxed. So usually the medical abortion requires 3 visits. First day she rose and the medication of the first day is driven. Then she is crawled after 2 days and the second type of medication is driven, where generally 4 pills are driven, 4 pills of misoprostol. And then on a day 3, she is again asked to come back for a follow-up visit, which is usually between the day 7 and 14. But when multiple visits occur, they increase the travel time and the clinic exposure. So the point is, can we reduce the number of visits for the medical abortion? So internationally, for the last 20 years, what has been done is that there has been many research, and in many countries, the women are not asked to come so many times. They have been asked to come fewer times to receive a medical abortion. And unnecessary tests should be avoided. And there is a recent guidance also from RCOG, which is Royal College of Obstetricians, which have said that unnecessary tests should be avoided during the time of PROVID. Even otherwise, ultrasound was not a necessary test for providing PROVID. And even the unnecessary blood tests are not needed. So we have to reduce the number of visits. The day 3 medication, on the first day, the woman has to be told, but the day 3 medication can be driven to the woman for use at home. And similarly, the follow-up visit, which is generally the woman is told between the day 7 to 14, that can be substituted by alternatives. Like we can ask her on phone how's she, and if she has a WhatsApp, we can ask her, we can do a WhatsApp call to ask how's she. If she has no major problem, we can ask her, do you have pain, do you have bleeding, do you have any fever? If she has no problem, then we can tell her that, okay, there is no need to come. So what about the MTPs which are after 9 weeks? So there are several women who require MTP after 9 weeks. And as I just told you, that generally the medical abortion is provided up to 9 weeks. So in such cases, a surgical abortion can be provided by a trained doctor with proper precautions. However, when the woman goes to the hospital, she should not have too many people with her. She should at the most carry 1 person, or she can, in some cases, even she can go alone also. Then the point is, what about the spontaneous abortion services? Sometimes a woman has on its own, it means that she did not ask for an MTP, but on her own, she had a missed abortion or an incomplete abortion or an inevitable abortion. Then if she reaches a facility, she has to be provided care. Because again, I'm saying abortion care is time sensitive. We cannot let her bleed at her house for many days, and the care has to be provided by a doctor as early as possible. And we have to provide her proper counseling in such cases. Now, one other thing where nurses can have a role is to ensure that there are no unnecessary barriers for women to get abortion services. Because when they go to the facilities, hospitals, there are lots of unnecessary barriers. Sometimes there is no privacy. Sometimes there is no confidentiality. What do you mean by confidentiality? Confidentiality means that the matters related to one patient are not shared with others. Like there are examples where woman goes to a health facility, she gets her MTP done, and then a cleaner staff or some other staff of that facility goes and tells the woman's mother-in-law, oh, your daughter-in-law had come here for abortion. So all those things happen, and therefore the women get into trouble. So at least what we should do is we should try to reduce all these barriers. Women should be provided services in confidentiality. And then the other, very often the barrier is that there is a precondition of sterilization or IUD, which means that in many hospitals, abortion is not provided unless a woman agrees to undergo either a sterilization or IUD. In any case, just now Dr. Bimla mentioned that at the time of all this corona virus spread, we are not promoting sterilization services, and even IUD services are avoided. So fortunately, that precondition hopefully should not be there, but still some people have got used to that they don't provide abortion services unless a woman agrees for a sterilization or IUD. So that should not be a condition. Women can easily use any other method like oral pills, condom, DMP injection, or any other method. Then similarly, one other barrier is consent from family members, which is not needed at MTP Act. If the woman is above the age of 18, there is no need for a consent from any family member. She can go alone to a facility and get the abortion services from there. And fortunately, the abortion methods which are available nowadays are very safe, and there is no need for anybody to come and sign. And it is very possible we have to be sensitive for such issues also. Suppose our husband is somewhere else in some other city and he's under lockdown or he cannot travel. So in such cases also, suppose he had traveled say 1 month back to some other city, now he cannot come. So in such cases, we should not unnecessarily insist that the consent from the family members is needed. And similarly, sometimes there could be cases where unmarried girls who are above the age of 18, they need abortion. And such cases, they can provide consent. There is no need to get a family member. However, if they are below 18 years, then we need the consent of a guardian from her. And in some facilities, they don't provide abortion to women coming alone also, which is also not needed under MTP Act. So suppose there is a woman who has a suspected or confirmed COVID. As I showed you, this picture is a guideline from RCOG, which is about how to provide abortion services during COVID outbreak. So the management will be decided by the team of the obstetrician and the team which is managing the COVID infection, which can be a medicine expert or an infectious disease expert. And if the woman is in isolation, because a family member is positive, it means that the woman herself is not positive, but a family member is positive for corona, and the woman is in isolation, but she needs MTP, then ideally it should be deferred for 2 weeks till the isolation period is over. And suppose a woman herself is COVID positive and she needs an MTP, then if it's a very early pregnancy, then we can defer the MTP till the woman is cured of her infection and she's isolation is over. Most of the time, she becomes negative within 1 to 2 weeks. And the isolation is also over within 2 weeks. So if we can delay the abortion services by 2 weeks, that is better. If it cannot be delayed by 2 to 3 weeks, then the care can be provided, abortion services can be provided to her by a doctor in a private hospital with full IPC precautions and full PPE use. And then one other area that I wanted to deal with, I wanted to briefly introduce to you is that there are sometimes people who have suffered violence. So now in a way we have completed the part related to MTP and we are moving to a new topic, which is the gender-based violence. We will have a separate session on that, but this is very briefly I wanted to tell you that sometimes there could be women who are coming who have suffered violence. So you have to be sensitive to them and you have to refer them to the right places. And just wanted to say that for this presentation, we have used the resources. This is the guidance of the Government of India. And then there are WHO guidance, there are UNFPA guidance, and which sort of continue in the essential sexual, reproductive, maternal, neonatal health services during the COVID pandemic. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kirti. We'll have, I think it was very interesting. People would have known the new information today. And we'll request all the panelists to join us. We do have a lot of question answers. We will take only the ones which are relevant to the sessions, because I've seen students especially are asking the questions which are not for this session, but the older ones. We will not answer that. There's a question whether hormonal pills can delay pregnancy. I think it's not relevant to this, but I think you can answer this, ma'am.
Hormonal pills, if they are stopped, the fertility returns as soon as the pills are stopped. There is no delay in conception. I think what they meant was delay in conception, is
Yeah,
what I understand.
delay conception.
Delay in conception. So hormonal pills, as soon as they are stopped, the woman, because it is the ovulation starts from the next cycle, and the woman can pregnant again after immediately after the next cycle.
I think Dr. Keerti has answered this question, but I don't know whether they're still asking this. It may be a very in start of it, but I think we can again reiterate it. If a woman is confirmed case of COVID-19 and she doesn't want to continue pregnancy out of fear and does not get agreed even after advising not to terminate, can she have an access to abortion service? I think Dr. Keerti had told her in a presentation, but I think she can again.
Yeah, so what I wanted to say was that if the woman has so Bharti, just to clarify, the question said that if she's COVID positive or COVID negative?
COVID positive.
Okay. Yeah. So if she's COVID positive, yes, MTB services can be provided to her. And as I just mentioned that if she is in the isolation, most likely she will be in the isolation, then we can wait for 2 weeks. It's slightly better, wait for 2 to 3 weeks till she becomes negative and then provide her services. However, if she cannot wait for whatever reason, even then, just like we do deliveries for COVID positive women, abortion services can also be provided to her.
Is COVID-19 a sexually transmitted disease?
Should I answer it?
Yeah.
COVID-19 is not a sexually transmitted disease. In the genital fluid, when it was examined in semen and the vaginal secretions and the genital secretions of female, the virus is not found in that. It is not a sexually transmitted disease. So the mode of transmission is through respiratory route only, and it does not get sexually transmitted.
Emergency pill, is it advisable to take by a COVID-19 positive woman if she had unprotected sex and within a day or two she was diagnosed of having COVID?
Yes, she can take emergency contraceptive pill. There is no restriction on use of emergency contraceptive pills in a COVID positive woman.
Just one more thing I wanted to add, Bharti, that about emergency contraceptive pill, it is not related only to this question, that very often some of our staff, in fact, very often I would say 80% of the doctors as well as nurses as well as ashas have a little apprehension about the emergency contraceptive pill. But we have to remember that it is better to give emergency contraceptive pill to a woman rather than, because otherwise either she will have to deliver a baby where her exposure and the health workers' exposure to the health system is much higher, or she'll have to ask for an abortion. Even there, it's a more, procedure which is riskier. So better to give her emergency pills liberally. In fact, in some of the places, like in Ebola outbreak, it was given very liberally in Africa.
Thank you, ma'am. And I don't know whether this question is not relative to this, and I don't think we can advise on it. What advice to be given to the couple who want to have pregnancy at this pandemic scenario?
Dr. Bimla, you want to answer?
Yes. In this pandemic scenario, there is no restriction on not to have a pregnancy. But yes, like previously also we have said, this pandemic is going to have an exposure to the health system, which is itself is struggling with things. So if the couple wants to, that is their reproductive right, their choices, that should be respected. Pandemic does not have any implication on conception, or there is no chance of transmission of virus from mother to fetus. However, they should take care that there will be restriction in traveling to the facilities, and the facilities they may get unnecessary exposure while they are availing services. So these are the things they should bear in mind, but that's their reproductive choice and reproductive right to choose this time to have a pregnancy. Dr. Keerti, if you want to add anything, please go ahead.
No, that's fine.
Please explain more about Antara backup method. I think Dr. Bimla.
Yes. So Antara, I saw many of the questions around Antara and
Yeah.
MPA. Some of them were not knowing what is Antara. Antara, or as we MPA or DMPA, they are one and the same thing. This is depomedroxyprogesterone acetate, which is a progesterone preparation given as a depot and is an injectable method. Antara is the brand name which is available in the Government of India supply. So commonly when we say in the health systems of the public health system, the brand available is Antara, and it is one and the same thing. We earlier used to call Dimpa, we call it as an injection, a shot, or medrostrone acetate. These are all same names. So the question is backup method for Antara. Antara, if it is not started within 7 days of starting of a menstrual cycle, or if it is there is a delay of injection, the next follow-up, because it has to be given at a frequency of 3 months. So if the woman is delayed by 4 weeks to get the next scheduled dose, then, and if she comes, say for example, after 4 weeks, then we have to rule out the chances of pregnancy. Either there is a screening checklist to follow how we rule out the pregnancy, and if the pregnancy is ruled out, she can be given Antara, or if she comes beyond 7 days of menstrual cycle, she can be given Antara with the backup method. Backup method is because the injection is effective after 7 days. The mode of action is such that the contraceptive effect comes after 7 days of initiation of the method. But because she is beyond the time period due for it, so she will need a backup support to prevent that, have support for preventing the pregnancy. So in that case, either she should be following abstinence or using a condom, or if that is not possible, then even emergency contraception can be used as a backup. But ideally, condoms are the backup methods which are advised if the due date for injection is missed. Am I clear?
Yeah, I think I'm clear. I don't know about the participant.
So this is a problem when we are doing the Zoom training. We are not
webinars.
I know. So,
Chaya is a non-hormonal pill. Then how it acts as contraceptive and prevent pregnancy?
so Chaya, because this session was not on totally contraception, but yes, because people may not be knowing what is Chaya. You may have heard about Saheli. There was a non-hormonal pill which was available in the private sector earlier. It's a indigenous product which is made by Hindustan Lever Limited, and it's been used as a contraceptive method, which is a non-hormonal. That is, it does not contain estrogen, progesterone, but it has centrum. It is known by centromin, and it has a its effect is different from the hormone. It does not prevent ovulation, but it causes asynchrony between the ovulation, maturation of the endometrium, and the release, and the delays the whole process of endometrial cycle, at the same time menstrual cycle and the ovulatory cycle, and the follicles don't mature at the same time. This leads to non-availability of the ovum available for fertilization, and this has a contraceptive effect. It's a twice a week, it has to be taken twice a week for first 3 months, then once a week pill. It is it does not carry the hormonal effects. So the women who cannot tolerate the hormonal contraceptive methods like Mala or combined oral contraceptive pills, they can be safely given Centromin or Chaya or Saheli, whatever the name you may understand.
This is a question to you again, ma'am. My question is, which is the safest contraception method? Because every contraception method has some side effects.
So there is no 100% safety in any method. Every method has side effects and also failure rate. If we see by the failure rate, then the safest method, the efficacy, if we see, Then the highest efficacy is of sterilization, followed by IUCD, then the hormonal injection, which is NPA or Antra, then followed by OCP, then we have progesterone only pills. So the efficacy, if we see, then yes, the safety profile, the failure rate is less with IUCD and injectables in the reversible methods, followed by OCP. But from the point of view of side effects, all the methods have side effects which can be managed by small follow-ups, or there could be some supportive treatments to manage those side effects.
Is it necessary to remove IUCD after 12 years? Can it cause any problem if not removed on due time? What kind of problem she will have?
In the presentation also we told that for 380A, which is for 10 years, we can safely continue the method for 1 or 2 years. It does not cause many of the side effects. But yes, the efficacy may go down because the period of effectivity is 10 years. When we see evidences, so the maximum period up to which it is effective, the good efficacy, like it is, the failure rate is low. But when we go beyond the effectiveness period, then it may have a additional failure rates. Otherwise, there are no other side effects. She can conveniently delay the removal for some months. But to be 100% sure that the efficacy is maintained, she should use some backup method with that.
There is a question from the community. Nowadays, ASHA workers and ANMs are busy in door-to-door survey for COVID-19. Then how can they give pills of contraception?
Yes, that's a challenge which everybody is understanding, and also they are also facing. This is a time which is never seen before, and here the mechanisms are developing. The community is getting ready, the health system is getting ready. Yes, initial problems are there. The ASHAs and ANMs are busy with additional tasks, but this is also one of the things, because they are available at the doorstep of the women, and if they can do this additional help to the women, then it is really I would say they are giving a very big service, contributing a lot to help the women in this pandemic. Everybody understands that they are taking this additional role of surveys and surveillances, but at the same time they should not neglect the other services, because if the woman goes out or the husband goes out, or if they don't have non-availability of contraception, then they may land up in a bigger problem. So that was, and we respect and we are obliged by the role they are playing at this time.
Most of the hospital health centers are closed due to COVID-19, and what pregnant woman can do this time, as she and how can one remove the contraceptive, and delivery, how can they be conducted, as many hospitals are closed here. I think this is of Titi Mukherjee, I don't know which place, she has not written the place. She says hospitals and health centers are closed.
So maybe I will come in here. So hospitals and health centers may have temporarily reduced providing services, but in most of the states, nowadays there are directives from the health secretaries or such people saying that the services have to be provided in the PHCs and CHCs. So if they have closed, most likely they have restarted providing the services. And like only if the private hospital or some other hospital was found to have a COVID positive patient, then they may have, stop providing the services. But otherwise, they are continuing to provide services, especially in the rural areas and the smaller facilities.
Madam, can Antra cause infertility? Dr. Nirmala.
Antra does not cause infertility. Yes, it does delay conception, and the delay in conception could be when she stops the injection, 9 months to 1 year. It may take 9 months to 1 year to get pregnant, but it does not cause infertility. She has to be little patient. The woman has to be little patient, and the woman has to be counseled and told that there will be delay in return of fertility, and she should, when she is given Antra, this is an important point of counseling, which the provider should be aware, and they should counsel the woman that if she wants her next pregnancy, she should plan that her conception will be by like 9 months or 1 year's time.
So there's a question, I think, from a student. They say they do not know much about the sub-centers which are near to them, like PHC, even in the books, you know, that is the question. And it's quite typical because as a student, I thought I should pick it up.
No, we'll answer under the FAQ. Okay.
Okay, so thank you.
So Bharti, I can also see a few questions on abortion. So I just thought I'll take.
Yeah, please, yeah.
So I think one of the questions some people are asking is that, is there a natural way that people can, like the woman can eat something or drink something natural to end the pregnancy and to have an abortion? So here I would like to say that women for centuries have been trying various things like various herbs or, you know, matrin radhas and various decoctions. They don't work. And because even otherwise 5% of the pregnancies end in abortion. So maybe in somebody's case it worked and they thought it is the trada which has worked, but actually it is not the decoction which has worked. It is that naturally also some women would abort. So these types of methods should not be tried and used. The women should have only one of these two methods, either the medical abortion pills or the surgical abortion. Now the medical abortion pills also, there are many other pills which are sold by the chemists, which are, you know, used and they sometimes say this is an Ayurvedic pill, which are not really those medical abortion pills. And women take them, and in the process they wait for 3 to 4 weeks, and sometimes their pregnancy duration increases. So ideally they should try only the proper medical abortion pills from the written at the prescription of a registered medical doctor, or the surgical abortion. Now one other question is, why is DNC not recommended? इसमें like I will speak in a mix of English and Hindi क्योंकि 2-3 लोगों के comments थे कि थोड़ा हिंदी भी बोलिए. So I would like to say कि जो DNC का तरीका होता है abortion का, उसमें बहुत तीखे औजार काम में आते हैं, sharp instruments काम में आते हैं. उसके कारण कई बार यूट्रस में अंदर इंजरी हो जाती है, चोट हो जाती है, और कभी-कभी वो औजार इंटेस्टाइन से भी पहुंच जाते हैं. So it's not a very safe method. While the method which is recommended, if one is a manual vacuum aspiration or electrical vacuum aspiration, which is a method that uses a cannula. Cannula is much safer to use than a sharp curate, या फिर medical abortion. I just wanted to also mention ये जो medical abortion की pills हैं अभी 30-35 साल से ही दुनिया में उपलब्ध है. And in a way, all over the world, the use of these pills has grown up a lot. So all over the world, the use of these medical abortion pills has grown up a lot, and therefore this is the preferred method, because after all, which woman will want कि कुछ instruments उसकी body में जाएं if she can just abort by eating a few pills? Now somebody has asked, and ideally the doctors should give a choice between the medical and surgical abortion pills. Surgical abortion method and medical abortion pill to the woman. अगर वो जल्दी आती है तो उसको एक choice देना चाहिए कि उसको कौन से तरीके से abortion कराना है. Then, any other questions, Bharti? You can.
Yeah. I think we are asking too many questions on the same issues, but I think I don't mind repeating this question again. If the mother is continuing IVF treatment and get pregnant after 15 years of a marriage, and after a few days she is reported as a positive COVID case, then what should we do for her?
Ideally, she should continue the pregnancy, because as Dr. Bimla also mentioned, and we also mentioned yesterday, that there is no evidence that the COVID infection passes from mother to the baby through the placenta. So she should continue the pregnancy, because after all, she has brought this pregnancy with so much of effort. And even for normal women, it is recommended that if they want the pregnancy, they should continue. Just having a corona infection does not mean that they should undergo an abortion. Then I will also address one question which is on the legal age of abortion. So just wanted to say that there is no legal age for abortion. So the consent, like if somebody is pregnant, जैसे आप लोग भी अखबार में पढ़ते होंगे, somebody became pregnant at the age of 14 years because of the rape or whatever reason. So there is no legal age for abortion. Anybody can have abortion if it is an unwanted pregnancy and everything is as per the MTP Act. The doctor decides that this person can have an abortion. The age of consent, ऐसा है कि if a woman is 18 years or above, she can give her own consent. उसमें हमें कोई फैमिली मेंबर या हस्बैंड या किसी की जरूरत नहीं है, पेरेंट्स की. वुमन अलोन कैन रो एंड शी कैन साइन ऑन हर एमटीपी फॉर्म. अकेली भी जाए तो उसको अबॉर्शन मिल सकता है एज लॉन्ग एज शी इज 18 इयर्स और अबव. अगर 18 से छोटी है तो उसको गार्जियन की जरूरत पड़ती है. देन अ गार्जियन विल आल्सो हैव टू साइन along with her. Any other questions, Bharti?
There's one question. In the time of this pandemic, suppose a female was traveling to the hospital as a suspected case of COVID-19 and is pregnant for 5 to 6 months and needs emergency service for abortion. What are the precautions to be taken as she was having the history of breathing difficulty with fever? Please let us know, ma'am.
I think this management will be similar to what we said yesterday's presentation, that this appears to be a case where the woman has, she is probably suspected COVID case because she's having suspected symptoms, and then she has either started spontaneous abortion or she is in preterm labor because she is 5 to 6 months pregnant. So if she has started a spontaneous abortion or she is in preterm labor, then she will be managed as a delivery case or a preterm labor case as we discussed yesterday, or an incomplete abortion case which has to be managed in a hospital. However, if she wants an elective abortion, it means that उसको कोई problem नहीं था, उसको कोई pains नहीं शुरू हुए, no bleeding has started, कुछ भी नहीं है और वो चाहती है कि उसका abortion हो जाए, तो वो मैं बताना चाह रही हूँ कि इंडिया में सिर्फ 20 weeks pregnancy तक allowed है, यानी around 4 months तक. So it is not legal to do an induced abortion after 20 weeks of pregnancy.
There's one more question in this era of hygiene. Is it safe to advise gels and jellies?
Okay, for contraception.
Yeah.
So hygiene is respiratory hygiene and hand hygiene, which is important for the pandemic. But for the jellies and the tablets, they should follow the routine hygiene practices which are advised when we are using these type of contraceptive methods. So they routinely also like have to wash their hands and then insert hygienically. Local hygiene is important. So those all practices are definitely they have to be followed.
So if you have any comments, because here I see now most of them are common, again the questions which we can answer as an FAQ, and some are very they have to undergo the video again because it has all been answered in their presentations. I do want everybody to undergo this video to watch the video again and clarify their questions, and then they can answer. Then they can answer again a query on webinar Q99. We'll answer them.
Okay, I think since some people are asking if the students are there, I don't want to go with not knowing what is subcenter. The subcenter, our healthcare services are provided through the network of the lowest healthcare facility which is available in the rural area is the subcenter, which caters to a population of 5,000 in plain area and 3,000 in hilly and tribal area. And each subcenter is manned by the one female health worker, that is the ANM, auxiliary nurse midwife, and male health worker. And nowadays, in some of the eye-focus states, each subcenter is having 2 ANMs. And there may be a situation only the female health worker is there, male health worker, because the salary of the male health worker has to be paid by the state government. There are many instances they have not filled up the post of the male health worker. So therefore, the burden of taking care of the subcenter is always lies with the female health worker, that is the auxiliary nurse midwife. That is the first level between the community and the then the next level of the healthcare facility is the primary health centers, which caters to a population of 30,000 in plain area and 20,000 in hilly and tribal area. And here we have one female health supervisor, that is the lady health visitor, which supervises these 6 sub-centers. And we have the medical officer and other staffs are positioned at the primary health center. The next level is the community health center, which caters to a population of 100,000, 1 lakh population. We'll have a 30 beds and with 4 specialists and with 7 nurses. And now in some CSCs maybe having a 9 to 10 nurses. So this is the healthcare facilities, which is I think you'll be, some of the students who have asked the question, I think you'll be learning, and also you'll be visiting these during the community health nursing classes, and also when they will take you to the sub-center and also PSC and CSCs, you will be able to get first-hand information of these facilities. And I think another important which point, I think somebody made a mention that, see, the ASHA worker and the auxiliary nurse midwife, they are one of the very, very important backbone of the healthcare delivery system what we have at present. Even if they are busy with the COVID-19 work, see, you are the ANM and the ASHA worker, day in and day out, they have to see the same community. So you may, the ANMs and the ASHA worker has to take a little extra pain to have a good relationship, because maintaining a good interpersonal relationship with the community, then you will be more accepted in that community. So therefore, you have to manage what the ANM and the ASHA worker has to manage in such a way that whatever their felt need of the services what the community is asking, even though they are working in this COVID-19, it will be appropriate. And also it is, as Dr. Bimla was telling, that is one of the reproductive rights. So, and also it comes under the essential services. They should take extra pain to provide those services. Is any Sarojit, you want to make any specific point here?
No, sir. Like you've already explained, the distribution of contraceptives is also in the Charter of Duties of the workers. That is at the sub-center level, definitely, and even ASHA workers during this phase, they also take up the responsibilities. And like you've already clarified, sir, when the students, they go for visit INC, in its logbook as well as in its syllabus very clearly mentions visits of the students to CHCs and the PHCs. So what the student had asked about, I'm not knowing what are my sub-centers close. There are assignments like community survey, community mapping, where the students identify and they plot it, and through the visit they should be able to clarify all these things.
Bright, you want to make any comment, keeping in mind some of the topics in which you feel you want to make some clarification or some comments?
Already, Government of India has released a guideline that family planning as well as abortion services will be the essential services. And also everyone should ensure that the supply of condoms, that oral contraceptive pills as well as injectables without any failure. Only the ICD as well as the sterilization services will be starting once the lockdown is over, and all the facilities will be initiating the service again. However, most of the facilities, they are providing the postpartum IUCD services. For example, during the mother is coming to the labor room for delivery, they can give the counseling, prior counseling, and they can provide the postpartum services. So within the 10 minutes of the placenta, after the delivery, within 10 minutes of the placenta, of the delivery of the placenta, they can provide post-placental IUCD service, as well as within 48 hours, they will be providing the postpartum IUCD services. Even an ANM and trained staff nurses, they will be also able to provide the PTHD services. And most of the facilities, it is happening without failure, even though the interval IUCD services are a little bit delayed due to this.
Pearl, you want to make any comment?
Most of the topics have been very clearly covered regarding family planning as well as abortion services. Only thing I just want to stress that during the COVID pandemic also family planning is very important. So it's important that all the student nurses also know about family planning services and abortion services, so that in case of an emergency, if the final year students are posted, they'll be able to provide services to the community also. I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Is Dr. Bimla, you want to make any final comment?
No, it was very, I don't have any final comment, but yes, I would really appreciate the efforts made by INC and also the participants being so engaging and putting up so many questions across. And we couldn't do all the justice because of the limitations of this electronic media, and also because of the time limitation. Definitely, we will be available whenever there are queries. Thank you so much.
Dr. Kirti, you want to make any final comment?
Yeah, actually, I would like to make. I will take 2-3 minutes. There are a few comments, questions which I saw, and I thought it will be good to answer them. One is about women girls who are above 18 years who come to a facility without any family member, and can we provide the abortion without the consent from family member. I have already explained it, but I just want to again say that in our healthcare system, what happens is that for last 40 years abortion is legal. However, what happens is that there are various barriers which are created and women are not able to get it. As we know, rural areas, there are very few abortion facilities, and then women have to travel long distances, or they have to spend huge amounts of money when some service should be available free or at a very low cost. Sometimes the private providers may charge 10,000 rupees, 20,000 rupees for them. So if a girl is coming and she's 18 years plus, there is no need to take consent from a family member. The service can be provided to her. One other question was related to the transport of the mothers, transport of the women for abortion services. As of now, the government of India has not made any arrangements for the transport of women from home to a facility for abortion services. And then just wanted to also say, I would take 2 minutes to just summarize in Hindi because some people wanted it in Hindi also. कि इंडिया में हमारे यहाँ 45 साल से अबॉर्शन लीगल है, परंतु सर्विसेज अभी उपलब्ध बहुत कम थी, थोड़ी थोड़ी बढ़ने लगी थी, और अभी एज ऑफ नाउ जो इंडिया में रिसर्च हुआ है उससे पता चलता है कि 85% सर्विसेज जो है वो मेडिकल अबॉर्शन सर्विसेज हैं. अभी 2 साल पहले बहुत हाई लेवल का रिसर्च हुआ है. अभी जो कोविड सिचुएशन आया है उससे एमटीपी सर्विसेज पे भी असर पड़ने लगा है. आप लोगों में से भी थोड़े लोग ने सवाल पूछे हैं कि मेरी मेड है 2 मंथ्स प्रेग्नेंट या 4 मंथ्स प्रेग्नेंट, उसको क्या एडवाइस देनी है. हमारे पास भी इस तरह के क्वेश्चंस आते रहते हैं. उनको एडवाइस यही देनी है कि अगर उनको अबॉर्शन सर्विसेज मिल सकती है, अगर कोई एमटीपी सर्विसेज उपलब्ध है तो उधर जाएं, और उधर अगर उनको चॉइस मिलता है तो बेटर टू चूज अ मेडिकल अबॉर्शन, क्योंकि उसमें थोड़ा कम कॉन्टैक्ट होता है. महिला को टेबल पर लेटने की जरूरत नहीं है, इस तरह से कॉन्टैक्ट थोड़ा कम होता है. हालांकि साथ के साथ वो कॉन्ट्रासेप्शन यूज करें तो अच्छा है. अब अबॉर्शन सर्विसेज अभी इसलिए भी लोग ज्यादा शायद जरूरत पड़ सकती है, जैसे बोला कि बहुत से लोग जो माइग्रेंट थे, जो दूसरी सिटीज में रह रहे थे, वो वापस आ रहे हैं अभी, और इसलिए लोगों में सेक्सुअल एक्टिविटी हो रही है. और साथ के साथ ही ये हो रहा है कि लोगों के बहुत सारे लोग जॉब चले रहे हैं, इसलिए एक तरह से सिक्योरिटी, इकोनॉमिक सिक्योरिटी नहीं है, फाइनेंशियली उनको लग रहा है हमारे पास में बच्चा बड़ा करने के लिए पैसा नहीं है, और इस वजह से थोड़े लोगों को अबॉर्शन की जरूरत पड़ सकती है. बाकी मैंने थोड़े बैरियर्स का मेंशन किया था, जैसे कि किसी को कई बार बार बुलाया जाता है अस्पताल में कि आपको सर्विस चाहिए तो 3 बार अस्पताल आइए, उसका जरूरत नहीं है. वैसे भी नहीं था. अभी पिछले 15-20 साल में बहुत रिसर्च हुआ है जिसने कहा कि एक बार वो महिला है वो बहुत है, एक ही बार में हमें उसको सारा एडवाइस दे देना है, फैमिली प्लानिंग के बारे में भी बता देना है, और उससे जो भी अच्छे से इंस्ट्रक्शन देने हैं कि आपको कोई भी प्रॉब्लम हो, सिम्टम हो, डेंजर साइंस हो, वापस आ जाए. इसके अलावा कोई भी क्वेश्चन है तो आप इसमें बाद में पोस्ट कर सकते हैं और हम उसको आंसर देंगे.
अच्छा, बहुत लोग अभी कुछ फैमिली प्लानिंग एंड मैटरनल चाइल्ड हेल्थ सर्विसेज में मेरा ख्याल है ज्यादा एएनएम स्कूल टीचर्स पार्टिसिपेट कर रहा होगा. उसके लिए मैं ये बताना चाहता हूँ, इंडियन नर्सिंग काउंसिल ये वेबिनार का रीजनल लैंग्वेज में हम ट्रांसलेट करवा के वो रीजनल लैंग्वेज से हम थ्रू स्टेट्स का, स्टेट नर्सिंग काउंसिल और वहाँ का स्टेट का कोई एएनएम स्कूल का फैकल्टी से हम दोबारा स्टेट लेवल में करवाएंगे. क्यों है ना, ये मैटरनल चाइल्ड हेल्थ सर्विसेज का एक इम्पोर्टेंट ड्यूटी है एएनएम का। तो इसलिए आप लोगों को इसका ज्यादा जानकारी इस वेबिनार में आपको मिल रहा है। कोई बुक में इतना गाइडलाइन आपको नहीं मिलेगा। इसमें सब गाइडलाइंस का, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का और WHO का और यूएनएफपीए का और इसका सभी लेटेस्ट गाइडलाइन का लेके आपको प्रेजेंट किया है। इसलिए हम सोचते हैं इंडियन नर्सिंग काउंसिल, इसलिए ये चीज आपको एएनएम स्कूल टीचर्स को ज्यादा जरूरत पड़ेगा आपको पढ़ाने में। तो हम इसको करवा के आपको और एक बार स्टेट लेवल में ये वेबिनार करवाएंगे। और ये कोई भी फाइनल ईयर स्टूडेंट्स है बीएससी नर्सिंग में, for them I would like to say that because there is a post of community health officer which is coming up under the Ayushman Bharat at the sub-center level. So there will be a big opportunity for the final year BSc nursing students maybe getting the job of the community health officer at the sub-center. So once you get as a community health officer, your role at the community health officer, which will be more focused on maternal and child health services. So therefore, today's the topics, yesterday's topic will be a very important for you for the final year BSc nursing students. A big opportunity because we have 150,000 sub-centers are there in the country. So in a phased manner, Government of India is going to have the community health officer post, and generally many of the states have opted to have the BSc nurse, qualified BSc nurse. So therefore, the yesterday's and today's and another subsequent 2 days webinars are going to be very important for the final year BSc nursing students. Therefore, you make it a point to participate and also download those videos, and that will be more helpful for you people. Any more, Bharti, if you want to make any announcement?
No, sir. Thank you, sir. But I also got a message that the concepts are very, very clear. They've been clarified for them, which, like, they were studying in the books, which they could not be clarified during these presentations. The concepts are clear for them now, from the students and some faculty also. I'm getting some messages over here. So, and I just, मैं एक और बात बोलना चाहती हूँ कि हमारे जो वीडियो हैं वो अपलोड हो जाते हैं 3-4 बजे तक INC वेबसाइट पे, और आप जब ये YouTube देखेंगे तो प्लीज सब्सक्राइब कीजिए। अगर आप सब्सक्राइब करेंगे तो फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट सब्सक्राइब करेंगे, तो जैसे ही वीडियो अपलोड होंगी तो आपके फोन पे या आपके जहां पर आप लैपटॉप में, it will come on its own that this video has been uploaded. So if you subscribe, it will come automatically as soon as we upload the video. So anyway, thank you all. Thank you very much, Dr. Katie, Dr. Vimla, Madam Abra, and President Sir Alot, because he has been very motivating to do this webinar series for all of you, and Dr. Savajit Kaur, our Secretary Madam, who is working behind the scenes. And so I just thank you all and the participants, because that is encouraging for us. Your participation coming to 10,000, 20,000 attendees are really motivating us, and so we expect you to participate more. If you're not able to understand, download the videos, go through them. Even if it's not, we are going to have an e-learning module later on this in different languages, as Sir said. We're also going to have in different languages, especially on the maternal health care. So thank you very much. Again, see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. for the basic obstetric care. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Thank you. Thank you all. Namaste.